Hey, this is Jeff. Welcome to episode 3 of The Castle. I'm really proud of how the show has been turning out so far. And I've got some great interviews coming up. I can't wait for you guys to hear these. I do need your help though. I'm trying to get the show in front of more people. If you can recommend it to anyone that you think would be interested, and whatever app you're using, please like us, give us a review. That all helps quite a bit. On today's show, I'm talking to Ryan. You might know him as SunClutch. Ryan is a visual artist, a designer, and an occasional streamer. And he's also my best friend. I asked Ryan to talk with me about the types of games we play and how those are changing as we're getting older. We also talked about his experiences with Twitch, both as a streamer and as a viewer. After the interview, I've tested Ryan with the speedrun, our rapid-fire question segment, and we've got a quick streaming tip coming up from Basic Bond, one of the great streamers, coming up on a future episode. Ryan, thanks for being on the show with me today.
Happy to be here. Let's do this thing.
So I wanted to talk to you a bit today about how we pick the games that we play, how we pick the streamers that we watch, and how outside factors affect you in those areas.
Sounds good.
You had been talking a little bit lately about having a sort of a fear of missing, like a FOMO, a fear of missing out with the games that you play and sometimes how you spend time in streams. Have you found that what you're doing lately, what games you're playing have been changing?
I mean, I kind of waffle between feelings on this. There are moments in time where I am like completely focused on like story-based games, and I feel like that's the best use of my time, and I want to get into a good storyline, but then I get bored because often these games take like 20, 30, 40 hours to play. And then I'll move on to like a Street Fighter or an Overwatch or something like that that's more competitive, and I'll play that for a couple weeks and then just get burnt out and salty. It's almost like I like the idea of a competitive game more than the actual experience of it. The FOMO aspect, I guess, comes into it when a new game comes out, you know, like the Call of Duties that come out every year, and like everyone's getting into it and everyone's hyped, and you know, you buy it and you're like, yeah, this is a game for me, I'm going to play it. And then like 3 weeks later, you're like, nah, I'm done.
I found there's something really attractive about that. You know, the start of it when a new game's coming out and you can kind of think about, oh, I'm going to get really good at this one. I'm going to learn the ins and out of it, and it's going to be my game. It's going to be my shtick.
Yeah, this is the one that I actually stick to.
Yeah, right.
You
This
say
is
that
the one
every
that's going to
time.
do it.
I don't know. I really like Overwatch. I found myself going back to it semi-regularly, but I don't think I could ever sit there and, you know, grind out 30 hours a week or however long you need to play it to actually be good at it. Like I feel like that should be okay, but at the same time, it's not okay.
What do you mean by that?
I want to feel like it's okay to just play it casually, but then when I'm playing it, I want to get good and put in the 30 hours a week.
Right.
And I can't do that. Like, I just don't have the ability to, so then I just don't play it at all. I don't know if that's like an inherent flaw of mine. If I can't do something really, really good, it just makes me not want to do it at all. That's just a problem that I have with competitive games.
I feel I do the same thing, and you know, I play an awful lot of Rocket League. I think I'm up to like 900 hours now, but I'm actually pulling back on it because the more I try, the more I want to be good at it, and the more I try to be competitive, I hit a wall where I am improving, but I'm only improving incrementally, and it just feels so bad.
So you've been saying that you've been pulling back on Rocket League for like the last year. You
Have
know that,
I?
right? Yeah, you've
No, I
been saying
haven't.
that's a very common refrain from you, and clearly it's false because you still play it all the time.
But not as much?
Maybe not as much, but again, that should be okay. Like it should be okay to only play the 1 or 2 hours a week or however much time you can fit in. I watch Emong on Twitch a lot.
Yes.
He used to be professional. He's not now. He's a full-time streamer. He's very, very, very good at the game. He's good at talking about the game. He's funny, and he's just an amazing player. But he also plays the game like 10 hours a day. You know, that's not something that any normal person can do. So I watch him and I get sad that I can never be that, but that's completely ridiculous, and it's not something I should be comparing myself to.
I know Emong has a reputation for being a good example of a positive gamer and a positive teammate, which is I find really appealing for his stream. I find I have a hard time watching people that are very competitive and incredibly salty.
Yeah, that's a big turnoff for me as well, is when I'm watching someone and they're just getting angrier and angrier. You know, they're not doing well in whatever game they're playing, or maybe they're grinding against a boss in like Dark Souls or Sekiro or whatever.
Hold on,
Uh,
who are you talking about here?
I'm not naming any names. And when someone is just getting really salty, it just makes you not want to watch them. And there's some people
Absolutely.
that like to watch people get angry, I guess. I mean, or else
Mm.
there are some streamers that are incredibly negative that are still incredibly popular.
Yeah, it's like part of their shtick.
Yeah, that's not something that I can really stand to watch for a long time.
No, that's a big factor for me too. If it's a competitive game or if it's a difficult game, I want to watch them overcome with positivity. I want to see them enjoy it, even if they're bad at it. What was like the first game that really clicked with you in terms of, oh, this is my game. This is the multiplayer game that I can see myself playing for a long time.
There's really only ever been two that I've
Okay.
really, we'll say three that I've really kind of like been able to sit with for months to years of consistent play. And I guess the first one would have been Quake 2
Oh yeah.
back in like 1997.
Okay.
Played the hell out of that. I played a lot of deathmatch, a lot of capture the flag. You know, I was a teenager and had a lot more time than I do now, and I just played the hell out of that game. It was fast. It didn't have unlockables. It didn't have a lot of complicated mechanics. Like it didn't have a lot of the baggage that surrounds games today. Which I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's
Hmm.
just it was different.
Yeah, right.
I really enjoyed it.
I think it felt new.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the only thing that was like Quake 2 was Quake 1, and
Right.
even Quake 2 was quite the departure from Quake 1. People thought Quake 2 was too slow compared to Quake 1. If you go back and play Quake 2 now, it feels incredibly fast.
Oh, is it so?
Yeah, but it was actually slow compared to the original Quake, which I played a little bit of, but not a ton. My next game I really got into would have been a mod for Half-Life called Action Half-Life.
Oh my god. Okay.
What's oh my god about?
Nothing. I wasn't a PC kid, so I've heard lots of stories about Action Half-Life, but I don't really know what it is.
It was like a multiplayer mod that tried to emulate Hollywood action movies. So it was mostly deathmatch. It was either team deathmatch or just straight up deathmatch. But you had weapons like a Colt 1911, a Beretta 92 FS. There's M4, MP5. All the kind of action movie weapons. Special items in the mods. You could wear a pair of slippers that would silence your footsteps.
Oh
There
yeah,
was like
okay.
a bulletproof vest that you could grab. There was silencers, all sorts of different items that you could pick up.
Was that a big factor, like listening to footsteps and that kind of thing?
It was huge. My main combo that I would pick would be the hand cannon, which was like a very, very short range shotgun,
Okay.
and a pair of slippers so that no one could hear me coming. And I would just like sneak up on people and kill them in one hit.
Nice.
And that got easier later on because they added diving mechanics.
Oh, okay.
You could dive forward, dive backwards, left, right, so you could cover a lot of ground very quickly. So you didn't have to work as hard to sneak up on someone because you could cover a distance of like 6 to 10 feet in an instant and get close and kill them.
Listening to footsteps, that's one of those things in first person shooter games that it's really prevalent nowadays, and it seems to have been for a while. But once you start to play the game at that level, it just feels so good. Like if you can hear someone coming and you turn around and you catch them at the right time, they're trying to sneak up on you, but you surprise them. That
Yeah.
just feels sublime.
And that's something that I struggle with in recent first person shooters. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or if sound has changed over the years, but I have a
Hmm.
harder time hearing footsteps than I did back in the earlier days of first person shooters. And I think I don't care as much now, so I'm not paying as much
Right.
attention. A lot of the time if I'm playing a game, I'm like I've got Twitch up on the other screen, I've got other things going on, and I'm not really as intensely into it as I would have been back in the day.
Yeah, and you talked about how time is a factor now. I mean, we're old people now. We're in our 30s. We're not playing games as much as we did when we were teenagers. The time that you have to play games or the limited amount of time, does that factor into what you're playing?
Actually, I think I probably spend more time looking at gaming storefronts, so like Steam, eShop,
Right.
that kind of thing, than I do actually playing games. Or, going on the gaming discords, gaming websites, looking at Twitter. Like, it's almost like there are other things vying for my attention that could be spent playing a video game that are like gaming adjacent.
Watching streamers.
Exactly. Like the nights that I watch you, I could be playing a game, but I don't. I typically focus my full attention on the stream. I feel like I get as much from watching you play as I would from playing a game myself.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I watch people play games more than I play them myself. I think my stream time is the most actual gaming time that I have.
Hmm.
But that said, I mean, because games have changed, If you broke down the hours of the games that I played over the last month, I think the game I played the most by far would be Solitarica, the cell phone game.
Yeah.
Like I probably play that because I play it at, don't tell my boss, play it at work. I'm playing it if I got 5 minutes to kill, sitting waiting for somebody.
Yep.
It's
I have a hard time with cell phone games. I try to get into them. I've got a bunch of them. I just never can really get super into them. I've played Solitarica. I'm sure it's a great game, but I just
just didn't hook you.
yeah, touch controls just don't work for me for whatever reason. And I know there are a lot of great games on mobile, and I've played a lot of great games on mobile. Like I've gone through Monument Valley 1 and 2 and a couple other ones. There's one called Photographs that's really good. One called Florence, which is really good. So I have
Oh,
played,
I've heard great things. Yeah.
yeah, I've played quite a few mobile games, but nothing really that hooks me and keeps me coming back. Like it's more one and done experiences.
Besides the limited time that you have nowadays, is there other factors that go into what you're choosing to play? Your workload at work or life stresses? I mean, we've got more going on in our lives nowadays. Does that play in, do you find? Do you find you choose stuff that's more relaxing?
I try to choose things that are less graphically violent a lot of the time these
Hmm.
days, just because of the nature of my work. I see a lot of that in person now. It's not that I've cut them out completely. Like I still play some Call of Duty, I still got Mortal Kombat installed. I'm more apt to go for like an Overwatch than a Call of Duty or Street Fighter than a Mortal Kombat. Once you've seen a lot of that stuff in real life, you just don't want it in your personal life a lot of the time.
It's not cartoony anymore. It's not
Yeah,
as appealing that way.
and I mean Call of Duty and Mortal Kombat and other games like that they have very realistic depictions of what they're showing.
I'm sorry, did you just say Mortal Kombat's realistic?
No, I'm saying their depictions of human anatomy are realistic.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
The things that are being done to them maybe aren't, but that's kind of where I'm getting at.
No, but I know what you mean. It's close enough, even if it is cartoony or even if it's supposed to be silly, that it's still triggering some of that discomfort. Is that the right word?
Yeah, and the thing is, there are developers at NetherRealm Studios that have been diagnosed with PTSD from working on these games.
Really, is that so?
Basically, they were using medical imagery to create their assets. So they'd be sitting there looking at these images for hours at a time, and that was their job. There's a few stories out there of people that have been having troubles. The people that make these games are not having a good time.
I found that when we were younger, I mean, this may not be true for you, but when I was younger, that stuff, it didn't mean anything. I was never really attracted to violence for the sake of violence, but in something like Mortal Kombat or in some of the more realistic shooters, it didn't resonate to me. It was almost like it was a puzzle game or a game of chess where it was just abstracted.
I never really thought about it when I was younger. It never bothered me. But the depictions are much more realistic. The fidelity is much higher now than it was. You look at Sub-Zero's fatality in Mortal Kombat 1, like you can kind of see what's going on, but you can't really see that the detail of the spine and the head and the pieces of viscera are not nearly as high fidelity as it would
Yeah.
be today.
You can count the pixels back then.
Yeah, literally.
When it comes to the streamers that you watch, or when you're finding a new streamer, what's going to keep you in that channel, or what's going to bring you back to that channel?
Someone that's got a positive attitude, like we spoke about earlier. Game skill doesn't really matter to me at all. If someone is bad at a game but still having fun, I'd rather watch that than someone that's good at a game and it has a shitty attitude.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is, it's why I watch you. Uh,
Oh my god.
no, I'm kidding.
You prick.
You're not that bad at games, except when you get lost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, like positive attitude, someone who's chatty, upbeat, which I know is very, very difficult. I've streamed once or twice, and I don't think I could keep up the positive attitude thing because I just get salty so quick. I mean, it's really mostly attitude is what I'm looking for.
And I've talked about this. This is the reason why I don't play things like Rocket League or Overwatch on stream is because I do get salty with them. Truth be told, half the time when I play Rocket League, I do end up rage quitting, and I don't want that on stream. I don't think it shows my best side. How much of a factor is the community, like the people that are chatting?
I mean, there's been once or twice where I've gone into someone's stream I really enjoy and really respect,
Yeah.
and the people that are chatting in their room have just completely turned me off, and I leave. I'm not going to mention any names,
Sure.
but like it's definitely happened a couple times, and there's nothing the streamer can really do about it. Like if the person isn't being racist or sexist or homophobic or transphobic or whatever the
Mhm.
case may be, if they're just being annoying, the streamer can't really do anything about it. I think your community is really good. I think for the most part, the other streamers that you've gathered around you have great communities, but it does happen once or twice. It's unfortunate.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. Once in a while, you're going to get a chatter who, it's like you said, they're not being overtly offensive or political or anything like that, but they still rub you the wrong way.
Yeah.
Do you think that's up to the streamer to maintain the mood of the chat?
I think to a point. So I know that there's a instance recently where there was like discussion happening in the channel I was watching, and the streamer was just like, "All right, we're gonna stop talking about that."
Okay.
Everyone respected him, and it was good. It was fine, but it may not always work out that way. But the person I was watching is like a diplomatic guy and good at what he does.
So he was able to make it not feel like some sort of heavy moment, it sounds like. You talked about when you were streaming yourself, and I remember watching you play Dark Souls and kind of pushing against the same bad guy over and over, the way that people do when they play Dark Souls.
Yeah,
And I could feel you getting salty,
yeah.
but you weren't really expressing it. I think I just know you well enough. Does it feel like you're changing who you are? You're putting on a performance as a streamer?
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. It's probably necessary. Maybe that's partly why streaming is so exhausting. There is a performative aspect to it. It does sound silly to say, oh, I streamed for 3 hours yesterday. I'm exhausted. But you're playing a game, you're engaging with your community, and you're
Yeah.
making sure that the things that you're doing and saying aren't reflecting negatively on yourself or the community. So it is a lot that's going on in your head. It is tiring. There's definitely a performative aspect to it. The people that can do it really well, I have a lot of respect for that.
I absolutely agree. It's a real skill set that
Yeah.
some people really shine at. And it's funny because when you're starting out brand new as a streamer, in my experience, that's when you have to be the most performative when you're talking to yourself. In some of the really great moments when I'm live, it's when there's a big group of folks that they're all streamers as well, or a lot of them are streamers, and they're kind of chatting to themselves and they're poking fun at me, and it's more of a social moment than a performative moment. I'm playing the game, sure, but I'm more reacting to them instead of having to provide more content through chatting.
Yeah, it probably takes some of the pressure off of you to be the center of attention when you've got, half a dozen people chatting in your room and they're riffing off of each other and you. It balances the load.
Do you find that when you go into a new stream and there's a group of folks like that, do you find that intimidating? Like, do you feel like it's hard to be in that room with them?
It depends on the attitude of the room. Like there are some rooms that are really welcoming, and like if you're walking into a room into a channel that has 100 people chatting, then I mean, you might as well not even be there.
Yeah, right.
It really depends on the community and how accepting they are.
Yeah, when it gets to that level when there's so many people, I feel like it's watching a sporting event almost. Like going to an arena.
Yeah,
Chat is almost like doing the wave rather than
you're
actually
just a
interacting.
just a spectator at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Professionally, you focused a lot on art and design, and that's been sort of your career. When you look at new streamers, do you find that's a big factor for if you're going to stick around or how attractive the channel is to you? Is there a lot of faux pas or a lot of things that people do wrong that way?
I mean, as long as you've got your camera is not in the middle of the screen or something, I don't think it plays a huge role until you get really big. As a new streamer, as long as you've got your camera in a good spot and your screen is, not hanging off the edge. Because I mean, there's been a couple times where I've jumped into your stream and it's like, hey, Jeff, you're missing the left side of your stream. It's just black. And you fix it.
Right.
But like, as long as you've got that stuff under control, I wouldn't worry about any design or art elements until you're quite a bit larger and you've got a brand that you need to maintain. And that's just my opinion. It's funny, like I've worked as a production artist, I've worked as a printer,
Yeah.
I currently work as a photographer, but in things like streaming, I just don't find that aspect important.
So you don't find yourself subconsciously nitpicking then?
No, not at all. As long as the camera is, in a corner and the capture window is aligned properly, then that's really all I care about.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting to hear. I always pictured it as a big factor, not just for you, but for everybody. You know, they talk about how design is something that everyone's aware of, even if they don't have the vocabulary to describe it.
So I guess when I see someone who has a channel that's really well designed, I do notice it. But when I see someone that's bare bones, I don't notice it.
Oh, is that so? Okay.
It's almost like I do notice it when it's well done, but I don't find it detracting when it's not there.
It doesn't take away anything for you then.
Right. There's a streamer that I just started following recently. She's from Nova Scotia, actually. Peppermint Swirl.
Yes.
I've watched her once or twice, and she does two really interesting things I hadn't seen before.
Okay.
Her camera window is a circle, not a square, which is kind of different. I've never seen that before. And she has like a 3 pixel border around her capture window. So it's almost like it draws you in a little bit more.
I've seen the borders for sure. I've seen overlays that do that really well, but it's interesting that something as simple as changing the shape to a circle is something that draws you.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. When I say border, like the border is around the entire stream, not just her camera.
I know that you said it doesn't seem like small things play a huge factor, but have you ever noticed anything small or easily fixable, kind of common mistakes?
There's one thing I guess that does bother me is when the aspect ratio is off on a game. So like I don't want to call anyone out, but there's someone that I follow and watch regularly. Their stream is always in the wrong aspect ratio.
Right.
And I conflicted as to whether I should say something or not, but that does bother me. And then there's someone else who I have a more easygoing relationship with, like viewer streamer relationship, where I have mentioned that like, hey, you know, the game you're streaming right now, it should be in 4.3 and you're in 16.9 and it's all squished. And like, oh, okay, let me fix it, and they just fix it. But this other person I follow, I haven't watched them as frequently as I watch the other guy, so I don't know if I should say something. But yeah, their stream is always stretched, and it drives me crazy.
I know as a streamer, I always really appreciate when people say stuff like that. It's hard to realize that you've been sitting on like a be right back screen for the last 45 minutes or something like that,
Yeah.
when you're a new streamer.
Or when you leave the mic on before the stream's actually started.
And cough into it.
Yeah.
No, I don't know who you're talking about there.
Hmm.
All right, Ryan, thanks for chatting about the games that you've been playing and the streams you've been watching. I appreciate you joining me here. Is there anywhere online that people can find you?
No. Sorry, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram /SunClutch. That's where I upload my photos I take on my personal leisure time. You can find me on Twitch in your stream.
Hanging out as SunClutch.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir. Are you okay to stick around and answer a few of the questions in our speed round?
How speedy do I need to be?
You gotta be super speedy.
Super speedy? Okay.
Super duper speedy. All right.
You need like a buzzer, so like after 3 seconds it just goes brah, and you move on to the next one.
Thanks again to Ryan for talking to me today. If you see him online, come say hi. He's a good dude. Coming up, we've got the speed run and a quick streaming tip from Basic Bon. All right, Ryan, are you ready for the speed run?
I was born ready.
You were born ready? All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you 10 questions. They're going to be rapid fire.
Okay.
I don't want you thinking about it. I want you answering as quick as you can. If you're too slow, we're going to move right on.
Okay.
All right, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, what's your favorite local band?
Slow Coaster.
That was way too slow. What's the best Metal Gear game?
Metal Gear Solid 4.
Number 4. What the heck? What's the best Star Trek series?
TNG.
Okay. What's the last movie that you saw in the theater?
Oh Jesus, I don't
Come on.
remember. I don't remember.
What's your favorite season
Of what?
of the year? What's the last
Fall.
What's the last game that you finished?
Jedi Fallen Order.
Did you finish that?
I did, yeah.
Nice. Okay. What's the last movie you saw in the theater?
I don't know, man. I don't go to the theater.
What's your favorite mixed drink?
Gin and cran.
Gin and cran.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite breakfast cereal?
Multigrain Cheerios.
What's the best? That's actually a really good one. You took me off track. I love that one. What's the best Zelda game?
Breath of the Wild.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
What's your dream car? Any car.
Mitsubishi Lancer EVO.
All right. Last question. What's the last movie that you saw in the theater?
I probably like one of the Star Wars ones, like 3 years ago.
Terrible. You failed.
Okay,
What
sorry.
did you say? It was probably Star Wars, wasn't it?
Probably fucking Han Solo one.
Fucking Han Solo one.
Yeah.
Well, you failed terribly at the speed run, but
Good.
thank you very much for playing.
And now a quick tip about streaming.
Overlays are a standard inclusion for any streamer, since it allows them to communicate information both perpetually, without having to repeat themselves over and over, and visually. However, a cluttered overlay can prove to be a massive distraction from the content people are coming to see. Carefully consider each part of your presentation, what it adds to your stream, and if it's something that you truly need.
Well, that's it for episode 3 of The Castle. Thanks again for listening. Online, you can find me on Twitch at @another_castle, Twitter's the same, at another_castle. Come say hi.